I just finished the first SOCOM game, and to be honest, I was pretty blown away by it. In this video, I want to show you why, and convince you that you need to play it, especially if you're not familiar with the series. The SOCOM series was huge on the PS2. There are 4 games in total, and they went from the start of the console all the way to the end. But I never really hear people talk about them. Yeah, SOCOM has its fans, but I feel like you either know about SOCOM and love it, or you don't know about it. Well, today, you're gonna know about it. I want to do a deep dive into the series, starting with the first game. I also just want to see for myself how the games have aged. I did play these back in the day, and I remember thinking that Combined Assault was maybe the best, but I know 2 is the fan favorite, so let's see. Another big reason for these videos is to highlight the campaigns. The multiplayer is what the series is known for, but I think the campaigns are some of the best on the console, and they do not get enough love. So if you're familiar with Ghost Recon or Rainbow Six, before Ubisoft killed those franchises, then you already kinda know what game SOCOM is. It's a tactical shooter where you command 3 other squad mates taking on bad guys across the world. Anyway, before every mission, you'll get a narrated overview, some mission info, and your objectives. You can also change your and your squad's loadout. Now, it's nice to have the option, but the weapon variety is, well, the weapon variety is actually not bad. It's more so that the silenced M4 does it all. It's quiet, it's accurate, you can snipe with it, and you can go full assault with it. It does everything. This kinda gets fixed once you hit New Game Plus, which is hilarious to say. You wouldn't think a tactical shooter would have a New Game Plus, as if it's an RPG, but yeah, it does. You play through the campaign once with the seal weapons, but after you beat that campaign, you can replay it on a harder difficulty and use the bad guy weapons. So, if you're asking if I gave my entire team M79 grenade launchers, then yeah, of course I did.
Remember to keep out of sight, keep a low profile, and remain silent if you do not want to be detected by the terrorists.
I think they suspect something, sir.
So all of this to say is that your first run through can be a little dull as far as weapons go. You do have a couple machine guns, submachine guns, snipers, and of course assault rifles to choose from, but you're gonna want the M4 most of the time. One thing I love about the mission briefing is the map. It's always in universe, so it'll be things like hand-drawn or schematics, stuff like that. It adds a lot to the mood, and it feels like you're really grabbing any relevant intel you can. Before every mission, you'll usually get a cutscene that kinda sets things up. There's not really a story, but there is context, I would say, if that makes sense. It sets things up for why you're there and what you're doing. The game is also super by the books. It's actually a bit sterile, in my opinion, and it almost feels like it was made by the US military. It gives me the same feeling that America's Army did, that old FPS game. If you're familiar with that, then you'll know that was a good game, but it also felt a little soulless, or lacking character. I think the first SOCOM is kinda similar. Both games are great, but I feel like they're missing a human element to them. Like America's Army, it's very straightforward. We are the good guys, and we stop bad guys. The bad guys are the bad guys because they're doing gun smuggling, kidnapping people, whatever general bad guy stuff there is to do. And I feel like SOCOM's earnestness is kinda rare in games in a weird way. This earnestness would eventually morph into games like Call of Duty. SOCOM plays it straight while Call of Duty gleefully rolls around in the blood. And then later down the line, you get games like Spec Ops: The Line, which parodied that Call of Duty glee. So I just feel like it's refreshing going all the way back to a game that has a seriousness to its subject matter. All the characters here are presented as professionals. They make human banter, but at the end of the day, this is just a job for them. I appreciate that, and I feel like it adds a lot to the mysticism surrounding Navy SEALs. The game also includes a pretty lengthy documentary about the Navy SEALs. It's done in a positive, kind of biased light, but not overly so.
This little piece of lettuce in a real-life situation could give you away!
As soon as the mission loads, you can use the gimmick of the game's single player. Now, I say gimmick, but I don't mean it in a negative connotation. See, the game actually came in this chunky box. That's because inside was a headset. It has an earpiece and a microphone, and I'm pretty sure this is the first official Sony microphone for the PlayStation. I didn't research this, but I also think SOCOM was one of the first, if not the first, online PS2 game. But anyway, guess how you command your squad? You use the mic because you gotta give voice commands, which sounds like a nightmare, but it actually works great. Team, fire at will.
Going hot.
Team, hold fire.
Going cold.
Team, hold position.
Hoo-yah!
Team, fire at my crosshair.
I'll take it from here. Dropped him.
Imagine if games today had voice interactivity that wasn't trash. Maybe it doesn't work well, and that's why. Maybe SOCOM's an outlier, an enigma. Regardless, it gives the game a lot of heart. I'm not gonna lie and say I used it the entire time, since you can also just tap circle for a list and then select a command from there. But either way, it's super convenient. There's even a few secret commands you can use, but those are secret, so I can't tell ya. So talking to your teammates is cool, but you know what else is cool? It's the fact that your handler and teammates talking back to you is actually played through the headset. Their audio will only come through the headset in your ear, assuming it's enabled, of course.
Team, this is HQ. Work quickly and quietly to secure the barge. You won't get a warm welcome if you're discovered.
We've got the swim behind us. Let's get to work. We need to cut off their communications, get the intel, and sink this ship. Let's not attract too much attention.
I've worked up my Russians, sir. I can tell you what they're saying.
It seems so small, but it does add a lot to the operator feel. And you gotta remember, this is a game from 2002. It's one of the first PS2 games, and they were already doing really advanced shit like this. And it works. Another great feature is that you can actually play the entire game in first or third person. It's up to you. The only difference is that first person, you have no gun model on screen. It feels retro in that way, if that makes sense. It was less work for the devs, and you can see more of the environment, so baddies don't sneak up on you. Thanks, Boomer. So this is Boomer. He's my buddy, and us together, we make up Alpha Team. Like your mother, he never leaves my side. You can tell him to stay put, but if you get far enough away, he'll come running. We also have Jester and Spectre. They make up Bravo Team. These two you can tell what to do. Stay here, provide covering fire, stealth, or attack to somewhere. It's useful, and they're actually really good at it too. The AI in this game is pretty dang good, except for when they're blocking doorways. They'll make enemy callouts with a clock direction thingy. I don't know what the name is, but you know when people say like 12 o'clock, 7 o'clock, that sort of thing? They do that. They're also pretty dang good at taking out targets and not being seen. You never feel like you're babysitting them. It can be frustrating if they get one hit melee killed, but what can you do? By that I mean, if you run up on an enemy, you'll get the option to quickly one-tap melee kill them. But you gotta keep in mind, they can do the same to you, so watch out for that. You can also use this same quick selection context menu thing to pick up enemy guns, and even to move and hide bodies for extra stealth. As for hiding bodies, I never did it because it takes too long. Also, this isn't Splinter Cell. Enemies need to actually find the bodies to call them in, which never happens. So that's all well and good, but feature number 3 I want to talk about is the ability to lean. You can lean your body not only left, but right as well. Oh my god. But wait, there's more. You can do this in both first and third person. And you can do it from a standing, crouch, or prone position. Like the other features, it's actually pretty useful too. It stuck out to me because you never see leaning in console games. PC, sure, but not console. It's one of the many little things I just love about this game, like the fact that you leave footprints in the snow and sand, it uses real-time shadows, you can shoot lights out, which affects the gameplay and your ability to be sneaky. Again, it's not Splinter Cell, but it's awesome it's here. There's also the fact that your spent cartridges after firing a bullet, well, they make sound, and the sound that they make depends on the surface that they hit. There's also the smoke coming out of your barrel after firing, the breath from your characters on cold levels. Alive characters will blink, dead characters won't blink. If you're shot, you'll leave a trail of blood behind you while moving. It'll actually pool beneath you. The fact that you can kill Boomer when his dumbass blocks the doorway for the 73rd time, finally causing you to snap and lose connection to reality.
Commander, Boomer has been incapacitated.
There's so much thought and care put into this dumb game. I love it. But all anyone knows is that, oh my god, the multiplayer, I want to play on Desert Glory. I think that was the second game. But you get my point. Play the campaign, damn it. It's fantastic. Anyway, let's talk about that. So you start off the first mission on a ship or a boat, I don't know the difference, and I refuse to learn. This boat's got bad guys on it. That's the important part. It's also a great environment to learn about the gameplay, which I'll get into in a bit because I got some things to say. Anyway, what I love about this is that it does act as a tutorial, but it tells you to do something and then you gotta do it. It's interactive, rather than just dumping text on you telling you what to do. It's the perfect environment to see how all the game systems work and interact with each other. As for the campaign itself, it's split into 4 different bad guy organizations you gotta take out. It's got 3 missions each for a total of 12 missions. After which again, you get to do New Game Plus with more guns and a harder difficulty. The first group is the Iron Brotherhood, which isn't the name of my Warhammer 40k Space Marine chapter. It's actually a group made up of former Spetsnaz. These guys are bad because they're selling and buying guns illegally. We intercept their ship off the coast of Alaska and kick their shit in. In that, I mean we murder a ton of people. Thank God I'm on the good guy's side because I'm telling you, it's quite the body count. The captain and his first mate too. Y'all are lucky there's no women or children on this vessel. This level teaches you to learn how to use your team. For example, at the end, you gotta plant bombs to scuttle the ship. But you can only carry 1, and this job requires 2, so you need to command one of your teammates to deploy theirs as well. On the ship, we also find a map and some intel about where their HQ is. Turns out they're holding up in an abandoned town in Alaska. This is mandatory to find, but later on, you'll find intel that affects future missions. For example, you can find a map that'll upgrade your map in the next level. It's like a very, very, very light version of Metal Gear Solid 5, how operations kinda connect and affect one another. Or in Freedom Fighters, if you're familiar with that game, which you should because it's awesome. I have an old video about it on my channel. Go watch that video and then play that game. Holy crap. What I'm trying to say is that this game has similar stuff too. Okay, so I love this stuff. It makes the world feel way more cohesive, and it incentivizes you to explore and 100% these levels, rather than just rush through them. After scuttling the ship, it's off to their base. Now this level teaches you some sniping, and it works well enough. If you wait for a second, the scope swaying will stop. But my only gripe is that chest shots are basically never a one-hit kill. You can do headshots, but they're really difficult. Also, this is kind of a realism gripe, but I'm pretty sure there's no armed force in the world that is ever training for its people to do headshots. I've never served in any armed forces, but I'm pretty sure snipers are trained to never aim for the head outside of something of maybe a super hyper-specific context, which isn't happening here. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I think a sniper should drop a guy with a single shot to the chest. It's good gameplay, and it's realistic, which is what SOCOM's going for, so just let me shoot him in the chest. If you play this level stealthfully, is that a word? Stealthfully? I don't know. Anyway, you'll face less guys, and you can grab some mandatory intel more easily. Okay, whatever. But if you let them trigger the alarm, guys will spawn on the map and come after you, and then they'll start destroying the intel, which can actually result in a mission failure if you're not fast enough. Now, if you want, there's a generator that you can turn off, and if you turn it off, this disables the alarms, but you gotta sneak to it, of course. And if you want, you can blow up the outhouse and make it rain shit. Jester will even make a comment about it. This game, man. That reminds me, I completely forgot about gimmick, or feature, number 4. I think we're on 4. Anyway, that's that Jester, your buddy, is a polyglot. He can translate enemy speech for you. So if you get close to them while being sneaky and they don't notice you, you'll get subtitles. Sometimes this info is useful, but if Jester is incapacitated, you don't get no subtitles. This really incentivizes me to not mag dump into him when he blocks doorways, which I'm still gonna do anyway, cause fuck this guy. Another downside is the pathfinding. It's not terrible, but it could be better. For example, in the second level, we need to secure a turncoat and then bring him back to the evac zone with us. It's not terrible, but it could be better. After finishing a level, you'll get a rating breakdown of your stats and how you did. But again, like the pathfinding, it's a bit wonky. It'll give super high stealth ratings, and if you saw my gameplay, I'm not stealthy. Third level has you finally taking out the Iron Brotherhood. They've taken over an oil rig, which is probably the worst thing you can do to the US government. They've set bombs around, and you gotta find them via sound. You can tell Bravo Team to defuse any that you find, or you can do it yourself. You also need to rescue some hostages and kill the Iron Brotherhood leader.
Good work, Commander. You've located the oil workers. They'll be safe behind this door until the area is clear.
Fourth level introduces the new baddies for the next 3 missions. These guys are called the Ritter Rouge, and they're based out of Thailand. One thing that this game does a great job at is changing up the locales. You got snow, ships, oil rigs, the jungle, it's got it all. Anyway, I won't get too into the campaign because like I said, it's not like there's a big plot or anything other than, hey, these are the bad guys and what they're doing, okay, now go stop them. Also, I want to talk more about the gameplay. So these guys take a US ambassador hostage, and you gotta rescue him. To do that, you head to Angkor Wat, which is awesome. I love that it's in the game, because what a cool place to have firefights in. You head into this really massive temple complex, get their leader, and retrieve a biological agent that they managed to make. I also love the little environmental storytelling. You'll find playing cards and food on tables, campfires, just little things that make the world feel much more alive. It's not a, but what do they eat situation like in Fallout 3. Calling it environmental storytelling might be giving too much credit, but I don't know, I think it's important. The next 3 sets of missions are against the Preemptive Strike, which may or may not be the name of my punk band. These guys are based in the Congo, and they're actually pretty cool because they're European mercenaries, so you'll get to hear a bunch of different accents speaking English. Mostly Australians, which I guess aren't Europeans, but you get my point.
We're going in! Let's go!
Enemy sighted. 12 o'clock.
Also, can we take a moment to appreciate how nice this game looks? God damn. Remember, this is 2002. Anyway, one mission has you destroying their munitions, and then the next, you're saving POWs from a camp, and then the last, which is destroying their base with the help of FA-18 fighter jets. It gets pretty difficult by the end. You really gotta know your stuff. Thankfully, when you do die, you can replay the mission with virtually no load times. The loading when you replay is stupid fast. It reminds me of Tony Hawk Pro Skater, which is always my go-to reference when I talk about reloading and trying again. You do need to start the mission from the beginning though. There are no checkpoints. I think that works the best here. The missions aren't particularly long, maybe 10 to 40 minutes each, depending on how stealthy you want to go. It just gives me that feeling that even if you do fail, you want to try again. It's fun to fail and run it again with a different approach or strategy. I never found it frustrating until Boomer blocks a doorway. The last 3 sets of missions are set in Turkmenistan against the Allah Sadikukahu, which I'm sure I nailed the pronunciation on. Anyway, first mission has you finding the one and only Mr. Pickle. Funniest shit you've ever seen.
We know Makek, codename Mr. Pickle. is in a dilapidated former Soviet detention center.
That's his code name anyway. Unfortunately, while rescuing him, an enemy Hind D comes to mess us up. Thankfully, I played Metal Gear Solid.
Team, the Hind has been destroyed.
Next level has you stopping a couple nukes from going off. No big deal. But then you get told to set the nukes off anyway? I think you gotta play the game to find out why. And last level, you're going to kill 2 cats, specifically Fat Cat and Kitten. They're code names for the 2 leaders of the Allah Sadi Kahu. Nailed it. And honestly, all these levels are just perfect. I can't compliment the design enough. One is a small base you gotta infiltrate, but it's up to you how. Another is an insane, constant Black Hawk Down styled firefight in a destroyed Middle Eastern city. They're also memorable and varied, and just so much fun to play. Like I said, the campaign doesn't have much in the way of story, but it's enough. The characters have some banter during missions, and there's some chatter to keep the game from feeling lonely or empty. I think it just needs more of a personality. Something that the sequel fixes, but we'll get to that in another video. But enough about the campaign. How's the gameplay? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it's awesome. Satisfying is an overused term, but there you go. I tried to think of why the gunplay feels so nice, and I think it's a few things. One is that blood will splatter behind enemies. It gives the sense that your bullets are actually traveling in the world space. Compounding this is that if your gun is blocked by something, your bullets won't land on your crosshair. You'll actually get this little marker on your screen letting you know where your shots will go. It connects your character to the game world in a really unique way I don't see in games. But don't worry about aiming too much. There's actually an auto-aim feature that you can toggle on or off, and it works really well. It's worth mentioning there's no bullet physics. This isn't Arma. It can be kind of annoying when your gun gets stuck on a doorway or something, but I think stuff like this goes above and beyond what most games do, so I appreciate it. One thing worth noting is that despite being Navy SEALs, you never swim. This too will change in the sequels, but I found it interesting enough to mention. Okay, so negatives. Well, stealth, actually. It's too slow. Holy Christ, it's too slow. This too will be fixed in later games. But in this game, you can crouch walk to be sneaky, but my god is it so slow. It's really the only thing keeping me from fully stealthing every level. Stealthing is usually something I only do with your mother, but I'd like to do it here too. I think you'll try to play it stealthy, but you'll lose patience for it. I also had issues with game brightness, but I don't remember having any of that as a kid playing this game, so that might be the emulator or my display or something, I'm not sure. I don't think it's really fair to blame the game. Another nitpick I have is that the guns are too samey. I mentioned it at the start, but the M4 is definitely the best, but it doesn't feel that different from like the HK or the MP5. Other than that though, I really do love this game, and I'm sad it hasn't gotten the recognition I think it deserves. The fanbase raves about the multiplayer, but I really think that's aged the worst. The campaign, meanwhile, still holds up as some of the best you can get on the PS2. And if you don't want to play it as a tactical game, maybe you hate stealth games for example, or maybe you hate taking things slow, then just play it as a shooter, that's fine too. It plays just as good as any console shooter you'll find. You can play it entirely as a solo FPS game if you want to, and why not? So again, I can't really recommend SOCOM 1 enough for anyone who likes shooters on the PS2.
Another victory for the red, white, and blue, sir.
The first SOCOM would go on to become the 34th highest selling game on the PS2, make a whole bunch of money, and like the movie Top Gun, probably get a lot of people to enlist in the armed forces. Fire team, keep a low profile. I remember SOCOM 2 as being one of my favorite PS2 games, but it's been about 20 years since then, so I'm not sure it's held up. In this retrospective, we'll take a look back at the history, features, and single-player campaign of this cult classic. SOCOM 2's goal was to take the foundation created by the first game, improve on it, while also expanding into new territory. A tough sell when you only have 1 year to do it.
This mission would be impossible for you.
SOCOM 2 would release exclusively on the PS2 in 2003, barely a year after the first game's release. Most consider 2 to be the pinnacle of the SOCOM series, which is high praise considering that includes 10 games spanning across 9 years, almost all of which were developed by one studio, Zipper Interactive. Zipper used to be praised alongside giants like Naughty Dog and Insomniac. Unfortunately, Unit 13 put an end to that. And if you're wondering, what the hell is Unit 13? Well, my point exactly. Zipper would release a SOCOM game almost yearly every year between 2002 and 2006. When you think of yearly releases, you probably think of stagnation that comes from games like Madden or Call of Duty. But Zipper was different. Like my sex life, they were risky. They were always trying new things. Every game in their catalog would try so many new things, it'd make Nintendo blush. From flying games based on niche IPs like Crimson Skies on the PC to 256-player PvP battles like MAG, Zipper was always innovating, or at least trying to. It didn't always pay off, in fact it rarely did, but when it did, you had blockbusters like the SOCOM series. The story opens in a dirty brothel in Albania. Yeah, there's a story this time, and it's actually pretty good. I'd never expect a tactical shooter to have a story with voice acting, characters, and even well done CGI, but here we are. There will be spoilers, so consider yourself warned. A nervous-looking subordinate is bringing a package to an Eastern European gangster. This man's name is Platz. He's an international terrorist and second in command of the Sassari Syndicate. The subordinate was transporting weapons-grade plutonium, which, unfortunately for them, has caught the attention of various world governments. So the SEALs are sent in to confiscate it and destroy the syndicate. Platz isn't happy with his subordinate being late, and I love the details here. He comes into the room and is already being berated by Blatz, despite bringing the plutonium, something his other subordinates failed to do. They found it by searching junked Soviet-era subs. Platz explains this while eating chocolates and stuttering. His subordinate finishes one of his sentences, so Platz shoots him dead.
Yo nuk e di se ju
Kaq budalla?
Po, dhe mos I përfundon fjalitë e mia.
The opening cutscene is so simple, but that's what makes it great. It's maybe 2 minutes long and has zero filler. It introduces us to the second in command, tells us his name, and gives him 2 character traits to remember him, chocolate and a stutter. It also shows us his personality and presumably his organizations. He's too ruthless to the point of stupidity. He kills subordinates despite their effectiveness. This bleeds into the ambition, which will also be his downfall, since it caught the attention of SOCOM. This is how you open a story. I already want to kill this guy. The mission briefing opens and it's similar to the first game, but expanded on. We still get the wonderful hand-drawn maps, pictures, and SOCOM command talking to us via our earpiece, which works great if you're using the included SOCOM headset. Now, if you're not, it'll just come through your speakers or headphones.
The SEALs have been given the go-ahead from SOCOM to take out the Sassari Syndicate, beginning with targeting their weapon supply caches.
The info provided here isn't just window dressing. The overview, mission details, and objectives are crystal clear on what's expected of you. The maps and intel section have useful information with gameplay mechanics. It points out how an old church might be hiding a sniper, the types of weapons we can expect to run into, that the Syndicate hires scumbags, but they're also cowards who will surrender if overwhelmed. This directly ties into the new surrender mechanic this game introduces. Now enemies will surrender based on a few variables, such as damage taken, nearby friendlies, nearby enemies, that's you and your squad, and if they're being stunned or being affected by less than lethal equipment. Now you might be thinking, oh my god, who cares? I just want to shoot guys. Well, you can do that too, and you're barely even punished for it. I mean, you are, with more enemies, but still, SOCOM 2 is a game that gives you freedom to play how you want. Yes, stealth takes forever, and if you don't like stealth gameplay, then just play it as a run and gun shooter. Play it as a third or first person shooter. Tell your squad to stay put and play it as a solo shooter. It's up to you. Unlike some RPGs though, the choices you make affect the gameplay and these will affect future missions. You can play it any way you want. What I mean by this is that the more enemies you capture alive, the more intel you'll receive for future missions. Doubly so if they're VIPs.
We were able to take them out silently.
Secondary objective complete. Nice job staying quiet.
That was efficient.
This extends to bonus objectives, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, so we'll discuss that later. Before kicking off the mission, you'll also need to choose your squad's equipment. Everything from the first game returns, but there's a ton of new stuff too, such as shotguns and RPGs. But for now, let's stick with the trusty silenced M4. The mission opens with the SEAL team being dropped in the Albanian countryside. We're here to meet up with an informant, but between them and us are a couple patrols set up along the road. HQ gives us the details. Again, if you're using the headset, her audio will come through that, but if not, just your headphones or speakers. I know I just talked about it, but I really do love this feature. Sony wouldn't try it again until the PS5 controller, which plays some sounds from the controller. Not exactly the same thing, but the same idea. I just feel like SOCOM was super ahead of its time. This level is both a normal level and also a tutorial.
When heading to the rendezvous point, stay clear of the main roads to avoid confrontation with the roaming patrols.
It's a little more in your face than the first game's tutorial, thanks to harsh pop-ups and voiceovers that stop the action, so yeah, not a huge fan of that. But could be better, could be worse. I just feel like pausing the game so you can read a paragraph of text isn't why I play games, especially when it happens repeatedly. If I wanted to play a Nintendo game, I'd be playing a Nintendo game. Unlike the first game, SOCOM 2 places a lot more emphasis on soft cover. Not only does hard cover mask your presence, which of course it does, but now soft cover does as well, such as bushes and water. Enemies have a much harder time spotting you if you're crouched down in the bushes. In this game, however, it can often reward you not just with the element of surprise, but you can also overhear enemy conversations. They'll often give you hints about what's up ahead, or talk about alternate routes you can take.
That knowledge may come in handy later.
It's a good thing you took all those Albanian language classes. I honestly thought it would be a waste.
Now you may be watching this and thinking, okay, so what's the big deal? Looks like another third-person shooter. Well, first off, why so hostile? Relax, friend. Second, you can play the entire game in first person if you want to. So it's technically a first-person shooter, if you want it to be. But really, it's the combat feel. So many games fail at making guns feel powerful, but it's probably the single most important mechanic to nail down. It's a bit insidious because you don't think about it because it's just not like graphics. It's not something you can easily see or experience, of course without playing it yourself. And even if you do play it, it can be difficult to express why it feels good. In SOCOM's case, every shot you fire feels impactful. If you hit an enemy, blood will splatter and they'll groan or yell while holding the wound before charging at you or seeking cover. Now if you miss, it'll leave an impact mark and make a ping sound. Some games do one or more of these, but rarely do they do all of them. The enemy's reaction is the most important thing here. Nothing feels worse in a shooter than shooting guys while they don't react. Bullet Sponge is a good example of this. I mean, yeah, it means combat takes too long, but really what people mean when they say Bullet Sponge stuff is that they're complaining that there's this unfun disconnect between how many shots they're using and the enemy's reaction. That doesn't mean every shooter needs guys who go down in 1 or 2 shots, but they should always be reactive. The absolute best example of this, in my opinion, is the Halo series. It takes a while to down guys in Halo, but it never feels bullet spongy. The combat is fan-fucking-tastic in large part because the enemies have different forms of taking damage. The grunts do go down in just a few hits, blood splattering everywhere, them screaming in pain or surprise, but even the elites, the shields pop in just a few shots and then it's blood and sparks everywhere. SOCOM errs on the side of realism, more akin to Hitman Blood Money, which is another game with amazing combat feel. Every shot changes the world. Affecting the player's world is so important to make it feel like you have agency. I'm getting off into a bit of a tangent, but look at Skyrim even, which I think the success of can significantly be attributed to the player affecting the world, which, funny enough, ties back into SOCOM. As the player, I want to feel lethal, like every bullet I fire has power behind it. Just up ahead is our informant. They share a coded conversation to verify that each person is who they say they are. Which is funny, because as a kid, I didn't catch this. I thought it was just awkward writing or acting or something. It confused me.
Do you have a light? I have lost my lighter.
I don't smoke. Maybe you'd like a drink instead.
Yes. I think I will drink with you. Oh, lucky me. I have found my lighter after all. I was beginning to worry that you were not coming. There are many members of the black market in the area.
Then hurry and tell us what you know.
Okay, yes, I will tell you.
He lets us know about the baddies up ahead, what guns they got, how many of them there are, and where we can find a sniper rifle that he left for us. This demonstrates to the player, hey, hi, hello, information in this game is super important, so try to gather as much of it as possible. While I've been largely praising the game, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Once you grab the sniper, you can really see how poor the render distance is. Thankfully, it does increase when sniping, but it's still super noticeable. The first game got around this by almost exclusively having night levels. I like the variety here, it's just so dang foggy. What is this, the Nintendo 64? I can't see shit. The enemy's compound is a few spread out buildings with a large manor situated near a hill. There's a weapon cache inside a warehouse we need to blow up first. Also, my guy just threw down a blue glow stick. How cool is that? That's to signify that we've been here and cleared it. The manor is a great opportunity to showcase the entry system the game has. You can order your team to enter buildings in a bunch of different ways. Breach and clear with a flashbang, with a frag grenade, or just no grenade. And you can also split up your teams if you want to breach a building at the same time from 2 different entry points. It's maybe not as deep as early Rainbow Six games, but it's extremely close. Inside is an optional objective for us, capturing the VIP. He's a tough guy, until I blow his bodyguard away with a shotgun. I super dig the morale system in this game. Imagine if modern games had this. We extract together and that's a mission complete. That's just the tutorial, by the way. After every level, you'll get a percentage ranking based on how you did. It's a little funky in my opinion, so I wouldn't pay it too much mind. But it's kind of fun to look through. The levels are broken up into 3x4. 4 groups you go after, 3 missions per group. We just completed level 1 of Albania, with 2 more to go. Between every level, you're provided with quite a bit of optional intelligence. I did briefly cover this earlier, but it's really worth noting. You can get more information by completing optional objectives such as finding physical maps or papers in the level, or even by capturing specific enemy characters during a level. This could be a map letting you know about optional routes, or a heads up about a hidden sniper nest. I'm a bit torn because the depth is there if you want it, but there is something to be said for games that don't make it optional. Games that force the player to do a deep dive and engage with its systems. You can make arguments for both sides. Personally, I think I lean on the side of making mechanics required. That is to say, I think I prefer when games force the player to learn, or at least engage with, 80% of its mechanics in order to progress. I remember playing the Batman Arkham games and being surprised at how video gamey the bosses felt, in a good way. It felt like you really needed to utilize everything the game taught you up until that point to beat them. It's a barrier that will, of course, filter some people out. But I think that's okay because the trade-off is that sense of accomplishment that EA is so notorious for claiming. That's an older reference that's not super related to my point, but it makes me laugh. You can think of it like a movie. Yeah, anyone can watch and finish a movie, but not everyone gets everything they can out of a movie. I think games are similar. If you want to finish a game, I think there should be a challenge put in your path. Not every game needs to be a challenge, but that's usually what I'm looking for. Lore is similar. Not only is there bonus information that has gameplay ramifications, but there's also surprisingly deep lore for the conflicts in SOCOM 2. Most of the named characters you go up against have fleshed out backstories, including motivations you can read about in their bios. It reminds me of a Bethesda game, with their books spread around the game world. You can just ignore them and you're not punished for it. But the world building is there for those who are interested. I have mixed feelings. I think there's better ways to force feed the information to the player, but that does require more time and money on the developer's part. You can make it engaging with player interactions, boss battles, and cutscenes, stuff like that. I mean, look how BioShock did it. I didn't listen to every audio tape in that game, but at least I got the gist of every character's backstory. I don't have perfect solutions, but I feel like there's a better way than just giving optional dry text dumps before every mission. But I've rambled enough, because next level is another daytime one, but the weather's rainy with heavy clouds. A smart choice to justify low visibility. It's not totally immune to pop-in, but it's certainly not as obvious as the first level. We've destroyed tons of the Sasari Syndicate's weapons, but now it's time to gather more intel on the group. Helping us is our British friends from the SAS. It's a little strange because they're identical to our usual squad, so yeah, I'm not sure why they're here. I guess it's some international flavor. Starting the level and there's 2 guards out in the open, not caring if they get wet. They're discussing how they came to be here, which reminds me of the first episode of Red vs. Blue. Those were good times. Anyway, they mentioned that the money was just too good to pass up. This is a subtle way to let us know that the Sasari Syndicate is loaded with cash.
HQ, we've located the guard post.
You're tasked with neutralizing the bad guys, grabbing 3 pieces of intel, and if you've got a keen eye, you've noticed our new clothes. Yeah, like the first game, you change uniforms depending on the level and terrain. If you've been following the channel, you know I love this. I've loved it in Siphon Filter, and I love it here. I also love the design of this rundown factory. All the exposed and rusted metal, the train tracks, and how nature has slowly begun reclaiming it. There's also a pipe you can go in. I won't go over everything, because I can ramble about games forever, but of course, as I say this, I think of something else I need to mention. In most of the levels, as you progress through them, there will be a cutscene or 2 that'll trigger. You might be thinking, oh, who cares? It's just some guards talking about nothing. But no, I'm telling you, it adds so much character to the game and its villains. And even more than that, it breaks conventions. You'd think a borderline simulator game couldn't do a story, that it couldn't have colorful characters with quirks and motivations. But who said you can't? Who made up that rule? SOCOM does it because Zipper are never scared of trying new things, which wraps back to my initial point. It's kind of a cute bow I made, totally intentional, definitely not the ramblings of someone with too much free time. Nah, this is all intentional. Trust the plan. Now, the voice commands usually work. Fire team, restrain. Restrain. Strain, restrain. Strain, strain, restrain. Doctor Strange? Fine, I'll do it myself. But you know, sometimes they just don't. Now it's time to put the Sasari Syndicate down for good. A nighttime raid on their compound, and this is maybe my favorite level in any SOCOM game. It's a manor/castle thing, with lots of back rooms, including a second floor, a basement, and even an auxiliary building on the outskirts that you need to clear out. It's a close quarters, target-rich environment, so lots of action, flashbangs, and tons of breaching and clearing. You can take it stealthy, go balls out, either way works. But you'll need to take precautions because Platz is here, the blonde stutter chocolate lover from the start of the video. But it's not just him, as Castrati, Sasari, he's the actual head of the organization and I can't pronounce his name. Although he doesn't really get much screen time anyway, so who cares?
Morty, kurs vai ut! Ti, jat, vai ut! Take it botore! Spandau! Katonium seti! Vendi pa vam bear! Shatar budala! Një gavlen as plumbi! S'kam baruar me ty! Trashikim tart!
Anyway, you use flashbangs and intimidation tactics to bag both of them alive. Welcome to the jungle, as we head to South America to neutralize the RAFB, a separatist group intent on bringing down the Brazilian government. But this group is a bit interesting, because it's made up primarily of women. There are male members, but they're regulated to grunt work. First level takes place in the slums of Brazil, with a cutscene that doesn't really give us any information. It's the middle of the night. A butcher is convincing an RFAB grunt to try some of his meat. I don't think this is innuendo.
Apareceu para experimentar os meus espetinhos?
Que tipo de carne?
É uma surpresa.
If that wasn't weird enough, the level starts with some ladies of the night prowling the streets, along with the RFAB.
Well, looks like at least one vendor's open for business. Think she takes credit cards?
Keep quiet. This doesn't look like the kind of place we want to get caught in a firefight.
Jester can't stop making jokes about the situation.
She looks like she would settle for recycled soda bottles as a form of payment.
Which comes through your headset if you're using one. Unfortunately, some lights you can't shoot out, which, come on SOCOM, what are you doing? Anyway, objectives are to meet up with an informant who informs us about a meeting which is about to begin. At this meeting is a local cell leader, so we're gonna crash the party and take her alive. Like the previous level, this one is full of close quarters action. Another banger level that's so much fun. You can replay this level 10 times and it'll play out differently each time. Now it's time to go after their finances, which means Drug Lab Raid, woo! Real talk though, I love the ideas and levels Zipper chose for this game. Of course, you're gonna think Brazilian drug lab in the jungle and fighting in the favelas if you're designing a shooter with levels in Brazil. I mean, it practically writes itself. And you may be thinking I'm being a bit silly too, but no, the game is turning into a comedy, because this level has a cutscene where two male RAFB members are chatting. One guy is trying to convince the other that a female member is into him because she's giving him shit. Which is just hilarious. Having a matriarchal crime organization opens up a lot of fun potential for characters and writing. This level also features the drug lab itself buried under a mountain. Much more than the first game, SOCOM 2 opens up with lots of verticality. It also does this without ever feeling overwhelming, and it bears mentioning there's no checkpoint system, so if you die, you gotta restart the entire level. Though don't worry too much about it, every level takes maybe an hour at most, but usually way less, so it's not a huge deal if you do fail. If anything, you'll want to quickly try again because it's obvious why you failed. The game is incredibly fair, so the ways you die are clearly your fault, but are easy to correct for, even if you're running and gunning. Speaking of verticality, there's a plane here we need to disable, as well as an attack helicopter that can mess you up. The game doesn't have any vehicles you yourself can operate, but some levels can have an enemy vehicle or two. These can be triggered by being spotted. If you complete the level stealthily, the attack helicopter never comes. If it does come, you can shoot it down. Now, the first game had this feature as well, but it's utilized much more here in the sequel.
Spectre to HQ. The plane has been destroyed.
Primary objective completed. Don't stand around too long to admire your work, gentlemen. Intel reports several enemy hostiles inbound on your location. Double time it to the LZ. Close one, team. Nice work downing that chopper.
The RFAB have taken over an extremely large and extremely important dam and are threatening to blow it up along with themselves if their demands are not met. Like me on a Friday night, they're desperate, and this level really highlights how games today just aren't made like this anymore. The first RFAB level were in a favela, and then a drug lab hidden in a rainforest, and now we're disabling bombs at a massive dam. Not only is every level different, but they all somehow fit together for the story while keeping things fresh. The time of day changes, the distances you fight at changes, the type of enemies you're up against change. I can't praise the level and level design enough in this game. Which is good, because I failed this level like 7 times. It's pretty tough. Just getting into the dam without being spotted is difficult. There's cameras for the first time, there's guards, including a sniper placed on a rooftop, and you gotta evade all of this while avoiding light sources like Splinter Cell. And if all that wasn't enough, there are 3 groups of hostages you need to find and secure as well. Altogether, it's a really tall order. Once inside, there's a commander with a dead switch on her. Take her out, then the RFAB leader, before she can set off the bombs.
That's the trigger man. Take him out.
The trigger man, get him! Get him before he can detonate the bombs.
Good. We got the bomb guy.
Nice work. Good thing you managed to take him down before he could set off the charges.
With Brazil saved, it's time to head to Algeria. The Algerian Patriotic Front has initiated a military coup and is threatening to take over the entire country. Same deal as the RFAB, but the men are in charge here. Boring. Okay, so our mission is to rescue UN personnel from a war-torn city before things get even worse. I feel a little bad for anyone in these iconic blue helmets. It feels like every game that includes them is just to shit on them. They're always portrayed as helpless losers who are handed guns with no clue how to use them, when in reality, they're probably selfless volunteers who make next to nothing and just want to help civilians enjoy a stable life free from warlords. Anyway, if you're familiar with the multiplayer of this game, you'll recognize the map Fishhook. In the olden days, multiplayer maps used to be repurposed single-player levels, and SOCOM is no different. This level has you using a laser designator on a building so you can call in a helicopter to take out a sniper nest. How does it take it out? With a hilarious 2D GIF. This is also one of the shortest levels in the entire game. I completed it with an A rating in just 10 minutes. Next, we need to help repel an assault on a large city that has American embassy staff trapped inside. The enemy has brought armor, but just tell them, thanks, but no tanks.
Enemy armor eliminated.
The final Algerian mission is one of my favorites. It's unlike any other, although every level has been pretty different from the rest. But still, this one even more so. The baddies are attacking an American embassy, and we're the only ones in the area who can respond in time. The entire level takes place in the embassy itself and the street outside. The embassy is 4 stories tall, along with a basement you can enter from and a rooftop you need to extract with the workers at. But it'll take 10 minutes for the chopper to arrive.
There are multiple heat signatures in surrounding buildings. Be advised that these signatures could be snipers.
It's like the Iranian hostage crisis, but a game level. What makes it so different isn't just the single location, but more so that it plays like a horde mode. Now, of course, this game was before horde modes were a thing in games, like in Gears of War. The enemies just keep coming, so you gotta position your team members at choke points and watch your ammo count. Which reminds me, it's actually a bit like Black Hawk Down in that regard. It's just a great, memorable level. The final 3 missions brings us to Kamchatka. I gotta say it that way. Anyway, the Global Liberation Front is very mad at the US, and they're attempting to build a nuke. That's bad, so we're gonna stop them. That's good, so we're off to Russia. Helping us are 2 Spetsnaz, as we've been given the green light from the Russian government to stop this group. First level begins with a truck crash, which is a callback to the first cutscene. Maybe unintentionally? Not sure. Objective is to find out if this group has a bomb fabrication lab in the area. If so, take it out. The game wants you to be stealthy here, which, yeah, I'm stealthfully challenged. Thankfully, it is optional. Also, this level opens up the Russian weapons you can use, like the 5.52. And of course, there is a lab here, where they're trying to make the bomb. Inside, you can even find the blueprints that'll make defusing the bomb in a later level faster. Because of course that'll happen in the future. You need a big climax. You can also find a map for a future level here. There's lots of bonus objectives, so keep an eye out.
Felipe, você?
Second to last level has us fighting against the group as they attempt to secure uranium from an old Soviet silo system. Though I'm not a fan of this level. There's tons of cameras, darkness, and big open spaces. Also, there's an annoying helicopter. Escort your Russian friend around the silo facility while he scans for uranium. Of course, no one likes escort missions, unless it's Resident Evil 4. And here it is, the final level. All that work and the baddies were still able to build a dirty bomb. They're going to ram a cargo ship into Seattle, setting off the bomb and destroying the city, which makes me a little sympathetic to them. Starbucks was a mistake. Jokes aside, I love how this level echoes the first level in the first game, which too was a cargo ship. Though this one has a good twist to it. Remember the informant way back in the first level? The guy whose dialogue I didn't understand? You know, the one who helped us with the Sasari Syndicate? Well, he's a turncoat. He only helped us take them down so that his Soviet-loving group could attack the US without any competition, because he would also sell guns and basically do the same thing they did and make a bunch of dirty money.
Это было давно, Ариан.
В этом бизнесе может понадобиться много времени для того, чтобы связать висящие концы. После того, как я удурачил тех американцев с закрытием синдиката Сесери.
It's a really weird twist. It falls flat a little bit because he's not even in the game that much. And it's not like we were working together either. I guess at the end of the day, it's just a fun callback. So yeah, kill that dude. Also, I don't even mind, because I love boat levels in games. I'm having too much fun. You can even see the city in the distance from the ship's bridge. The bomb itself is tucked away in the bowels of the ship. There's several potential spots for it, so you'll need to quickly find it while racing against a timer. Defuse it quickly with the schematics we found in the previous level, then board a Blackbird to extract, and it's game complete. Not only did we save Seattle, we saved the boat too. The backup plan was to blow up the boat, hopefully not with us on it. So, what do you get as a reward for completing the game? A new game plus mode. You can play on a harder difficulty along with all the weapons in the game. They're unlocked now. They're also pretty crazy. Machine guns, grenade launchers, shotguns. Now, these aren't the most practical weapons to use in the missions, but they're fun to mess around with. There's even a thermal scope. SOCOM 2 really incentivizes you to play through the campaign one more time, not only on a harder difficulty, but with more guns, all the while trying to get a higher grade. Now personally, I like the 50 cal sniper, along with the 50 cal Desert Eagle. Time for revenge, Millard, you turncoat motherfucker.
This mission has progressed unsatisfactorily. We're pulling the plug.
And that's SOCOM 2. I love the single player, and you should too. Go play it. Subscribe if you wanna. I love ya. Bye. SOCOM 3 added vehicles, more customization, larger levels, and so much more. So why then do so many SOCOM fans hate this game? It's got a respectable 82 on Metacritic, compared to SOCOM 2's 87. Now I'm not a math guy, but those numbers are pretty close. And yes, I remember enjoying the game as a kid, playing online especially. But that score is completely undeserved, and those fond memories deserve to be left in the past. Replaying the single-player campaign today, and wow, this is an awful SOCOM game. So let's dig through the campaign, gameplay mechanics, and deep dive into what went right, and more importantly, how much of it went wrong. The game kicks off like the second game, with a cutscene that sets up the story. A dictator wannabe has risen up and is using his forces, called the Northern African Alliance Patriotic Front. I don't know. Honestly, who cares? I bet their flag has a sword on it when it should have a dragon. Good for the Welsh. Anyway, during a public speech, he pulls a 300 "This is Sparta" and executes a diplomat before marching his army towards another nation's capital. The game doesn't state which nation exactly, but I bet their flag has a sword on it when it should have a dragon. Now I've started this off pretty negatively, but it's gonna get worse. Before it does though, when you boot up the game and that classic SOCOM theme song hits you, damn, never gets old. If you sit at the main menu for too long, which you will because then a trailer for the game will begin playing. And this is a subtle clue on the biggest issue with the game, which is to say it's an action game. Explosions, high-octane firefights, drive-by shooting with vehicles. Oh, we'll get to the vehicles. SOCOM 3 is an action game first and foremost. Tactical shooter, like in the back. Way in the back. It'd be like if I started covering Xbox games. Hey guys, welcome to my Blinks Let's Play. Remember to like and subscribe. See, it doesn't work, no matter how good Blinks is. First mission and we get the old SEAL team back, but they never really had a character to them, so it's whatever. Your squad is out preparing for a reconnaissance mission when they get word about an upcoming attack. The mission is scrubbed, as you and your team race to an extraction point in order to tackle this new threat. This level acts as a tutorial, and the problems with the game become obvious right away. Now, I don't know the inner workings of game development, but this game feels so different from 1 and 2. The movement is more loose, which some might think means fluid, and like, it's a good thing, but what I mean to say is that it lacks the precision that is commonplace in the first 2 games. It's not the worst, but it is a noticeable downgrade. This can be okay in any other third-person shooter, but this is supposed to be a tactical shooter with hints of realism, where one bullet can mean the difference between success and failure. I want every footstep to be intentional and not feel like I'm fighting the controls as much as the enemy. Normally, I'd feel silly complaining about this because it's still a bit above average compared to third-person shooters as a whole on the PS2. But they already perfected this in the first 2 games, so why is it worse here? That doesn't make sense to me. Either keep it the same or improve on it. That's what every sequel should aspire to do. I understand if we're discussing something more subjective, like a story, but mechanics like controls, those are fairly universal on what's liked and what's not liked. No one's playing a Gran Turismo game and thinking, wow, these cars just don't feel right. You can say realistic driving isn't fun for you, but they're 90% of the way there. SOCOM 1 and 2 were also 90% of the way there, but now they're just stumbling with SOCOM 3. Like in the previous games, you can still mantle over certain objects in the game world, which does come up pretty frequently. And as much as I'm ragging on the game, it does do verticality extremely well, like SOCOM 2 did, but it's even better here. Also, enemies can, and often will, fire at you from above, which keeps you on your toes. Of course you can, and should, do the same to them. If Star Wars taught me anything, it's to not underestimate the advantage of having the high ground. Though the AI in the series has never been that great, and SOCOM 3 is no exception. It's largely unchanged from the first 2 games. Not great, but not the worst either. It's about a 4 out of 10 in my opinion. I do like their animations though. If they're injured, they'll limp around until taken out. A nice touch you don't often see in games. Zipper also introduced a new swimming mechanic, which is what it sounds like. You can now swim. It doesn't occur super often, but it does break up the game's pacing along with the new vehicle system. Put these together and you're never doing the same thing for very long, whether that be sniping, sneaking, piloting a vehicle, swimming, or climbing. While swimming, you can briefly go underwater to keep yourself from being spotted by enemies. There's a bar that'll tick down next to your name. Once it drains completely, you'll automatically come up for air. It's a simplistic system that doesn't come up often, but it's still a welcome addition to break things up and add some depth to the game.
Mount up!
Aye,
Spectre, board the vehicle and proceed with your mission.
So I mentioned the vehicles, and I need to mention them again, because they play a huge role in SOCOM 3, and are largely responsible for why this game moved away from tactical stealthiness into what's basically a Michael Bay film. There are trucks with mounted machine guns, Humvees with mounted machine guns, buggies with mounted machine guns, and even boats with mounted machine guns. It's a bit silly, and while I love the idea, I hate the execution. Though I can't think of what would have worked better. SOCOM has always been a stealth-orientated shooter, which naturally conflicts with introducing vehicles, which, you know, tend to be a bit loud.
that first patrol.
It's not like they had a bunch of electric vehicles to use in the early 2000s, which makes me wonder if their silence is actually a really good use case for the military. Anyway, that's off topic. Point is, I don't like what's here, but I also don't know how to fix it. I think there was ultimately two opposing directions SOCOM 3 could have gone. Either what they did, which is way more action, loudness, explosions, basically a dumb Hollywood movie with only the faint remnants of the series' roots left. Or go even harder into the stealth niche, introduce planning phases like Rainbow Six, maybe operation phases and splitting up the team to tackle more complicated missions, customizing clothing or choosing missions perhaps, maybe even more of a focus on story. I mean, Splinter Cell was blowing up at this time, so it would have made some amount of sense. I can see how that'd conflict with the real focus of the series though, which has always been the PvP multiplayer, though I also don't think they're mutually exclusive. All this to say, I'm disappointed SOCOM took the casual, mass appeal route. Was it the right call financially? Well, the series was steadily declining in sales with every new entry, so probably. SOCOM 1 actually sold like crazy, with Wikipedia and VG charts estimating 2 to 4 million copies sold, making it one of the best-selling PS2 games. SOCOM 2 sold about 2 million copies, just barely, and SOCOM 3 sold about 1.5 million. Sony and Zipper were getting desperate as the series continued, so it's hard to fault them for going for more mass appeal. SOCOM, in a lot of ways, was Call of Duty before Call of Duty, as it mainly appealed to and was purchased by frat boys and dude bros, men aged 20 to 35, who enjoy traditionally masculine things like shooting shit with guns and being bisexually curious. Don't ask, don't tell. All this to say, I'm not sure if the core SOCOM audience was ever interested in the more nitty-gritty details of tactical games. Most played it for the PvP and the community that it provided. There was a clan system, a server browser, and even a ranking system. People played it like Madden matches. They'd hop on after work, play a couple hours with the same friend group, rinse and repeat. These were not people who were sweating over insertion points or double-checking details of an operation, like a Ready or Not player. It wouldn't surprise me if there was little to no overlap between SOCOM fans and Tom Clancy fans. But still, it's painful to see the series lose what made it special with each iteration. SOCOM 3 in particular feels more like a Battlefield game than it does a SOCOM game. It's fine when viewed through that lens, it's just not what I'm looking for. Now, it's not all bad, just most of it. So I do want to highlight a great new feature. The squad loadout system has been greatly expanded and improved upon. You can still choose you and your squad's equipment, the primary, secondary, and auxiliary slots, and there's more gear to choose from. But now you can also customize your guns as well. Rather than choosing between an M4 with or without a suppressor, you now have 2 slots per primary weapon. An attachment will take up one of those slots. Options include suppressors, scopes, grips, bipods, and lots of other fun toys. Your secondary has 1 slot, so you can throw on a laser or suppressor for your pistol. But Zipper added another great and super smart addition to this mechanic. You now have to be aware of your total weight load. Unlike the American police force, each SEAL has a weight limit they must stay under. Carry too much and you'll be so slow it's basically unplayable. This is a small but impressive change, considering action games weren't as RPG heavy as they are today. The only games at the time with encumbrance were of course RPGs. Sure, you can bring an M60 and lay down a ton of firepower, but that doesn't leave room for much else. This is a cool system, until you learn the M16 with a red dot and laser sight is totally broken. It bumps your accuracy up to max, and with it, there's really no reason to use any other primary. Sure, you can miss with the M60, or you can just fire 3 or so shots to down a guy with the M16. I remember this being an issue in the multiplayer as well. To say the game is unbalanced, well, that's a bit of an understatement. Of course, since this is single player we're talking about, it's not the end of the world. You can and should experiment with different weapons and configurations. I mean, there's over 30 guns, and they are pretty different from each other. So give them a shot, pun intended, and see which one you like. The attachments are also unique to the guns, which makes them even more unique. I need to stop saying unique. Anyway, the M8 assault rifle has an airburst launcher attachment too, which can't be placed on any other gun, for example. Speaking of the M8, it's neat seeing the guns we thought would be used in the future of warfare. Of course, the M8 project was ultimately shut down, but seeing it in games like SOCOM and the Tom Clancy series, it's a fun time capsule. It's got a really distinctive look, if nothing else. After completing the game, you'll unlock every gun, including those used by the enemies. This has been the SOCOM MO, so it's nice to see it return here. Unlike in previous SOCOM games, 3 added a checkpoint system, and to be frank, I'm not sure why. I guess other games were doing it at the time, so the devs felt like SOCOM needed it. I don't know, it seems super out of place, especially when you consider that most levels can be completed in under 20 minutes, even if you go full stealth. When I played, it was like 10 minutes per level. But the checkpoint system not only does what you'd expect, allow you to continue the level halfway through, rather than at the start, but it also refills your health and ammo. This single change strips the game of most of the tension, because you don't have a choice in the matter. On your last leg, with your last mag, with only one more building to clear? Oh, don't worry, we'll get you right as rain to ensure you finish the level. God forbid there's any kind of stakes in your tactical shooter. Yes, it is frustrating to restart the level after death, for the successes to feel earned. At the very least, why not just tie this system to the difficulty? Like, on easy, it works as it does, you have the checkpoints, but on the harder difficulty levels, it reverts to classic SOCOM no checkpoint system. You can think of it like an Iron Man mode. It feels like a modern system that's shoved into a game simply because it's modern, without any thought given as to why or how it would better the experience. Another change, but this time for the better, is the addition of the crosstalk system. If you had a PSP, you could connect it to your PS2 with a USB cable, and if the game supported it, you could share saves and unlock bonus content in one or both of the games. Usually this means an extra weapon unlock or a multiplayer skin, but in the coolest instance, a convoy wouldn't appear in SOCOM 3 if you completed a bonus objective in the PSP game SOCOM Fireteam Bravo. This sounds amazing, and it was, when it was a thing. But there's the problem, it was never really a thing. It even continued on into the early PS3's life cycle, but only about 30 games or so had the feature at all. That's not a lot when you spread it across 3 platforms. It was a really cool idea, but it took so much work to implement. Although it did incentivize people to buy more Sony products, at the end of the day, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. But that was back in the early 2000s. Maybe a similar system could work better today, now that it's easier for our games to be connected via the internet, whether we like that or not. Regardless, I highly recommend the Golden Bolt's video on the subject. He covers it in a ton of detail. You can find a link to that video in this video's description. As you go through the first mission, you'll be given instructions on how to play the game, and introduced to the new mechanics in SOCOM 3. This is very in your face, since this first task is to commandeer a Humvee and fend off an ambush. You're also introduced to the voice command system, which works the same as the prior 2 games, with the same commands being carried over, although the UI is a bit different. And can I just say, I'm a big fan of the wiggly antennas, they're fun. Anyway, you drive down to the beach, try out some sniping, swimming, and board a boat with a comical amount of firepower. I mean, 2 miniguns and a grenade launcher on the back? Is this SOCOM or a Call of Duty level? There's no better illustration of this than the very first level. The Humvee is whatever. You want the game to start off intense, so I get it. But once you breach the city, you grab a turret and fend off a tank while a helicopter can swoop in to save you. Seriously, what the fuck happened to SOCOM? And I still got a 72 stealth rating? Are you high? Let's just calm down, take a breather. It was only the first level. Let's give the game the benefit of the doubt and see where it goes. Okay, we're on the 2nd level. Another vehicle. It's not a great sign, but buggies in the desert are cool. What the fuck? SOCOM's COD before COD was COD. Let's just try to have fun. A convoy will pass by a nearby road, so we head there to set up an ambush. It's not really stealthy, but it is tactical, I suppose. It's also something different, and a good ambush is always fun. So you know what? It gets my seal of approval. It's certainly more appropriate for a SOCOM game than doing donuts in a buggy while mag dumping enemy technicals. Continuing this trend is a little fort nearby that we need to clear out. I like this, and it actually plays to the strengths of the larger maps. You can approach this fort straight on, or sneak in closer through a nearby lake. Player agency is one thing that open games can and should take advantage of, so it's really nice to see it here. There's a gap in the wall if you head to the back, which also encourages you to explore. Again, great to see. But after clearing out the fort, you have a problem. You need to head to your next objective, but like I just said, the map is pretty large. Well, you can walk, of course, or use a nearby vehicle. This makes you feel like you're playing GTA, kinda. I don't hate it. It's different, but it's not better or worse. Just different. Destroy a radio tower. Meet with an informant, which gives me PTSD from the last game.
I'm looking for the Sand Lion.
And I am the king of the desert.
And it's mission 2 complete. What effect did this have? Well, our dictator friend from the start was sending his forces into a nearby country in order to invade it. We halted this advance. For now. This might be inspired by Operation Desert Storm and the US stopping Saddam's invasion into Kuwait, though this is Africa rather than the Middle East. Still, I think the inspiration is definitely there. Similar to the previous level, we're running a hit-and-run operation against the dictator's supply system. I'll try calling them by their given acronym name, NAPF, but I'll probably forget it. Our insurgency friends are under fire, so we make a detour to help them out. While trying to do that, the helicopter that helped us take out the tank in the last level, well, it was shot down nearby, so now we need to go help them out. The pilot survived and conscious, so we're going in, because the game needs a Black Hawk Down level. Unfortunately, on the way to the town is a tank. Fortunately, we have a laser designator. Destroy the tank, then the bridge, and continue heading to the town. This is where the defensive and offensive forces are clashing. Inside the town, we trade long-distance fighting for some cool CQC action. This is another strength of having larger levels, even if I can't stand the gunplay changes they did. It just does not feel like SOCOM. The bullet spread is really aggressive, and the tracer rounds make it feel even worse. When every time you see a tracer, it's always veering way off to the side. It doesn't feel good to see. It just makes the shooting feel even more random than what it already is. Deeper inside the facility, Jester is doing something. We blow the supplies and bail for another mission complete. While we're making progress against the... what was their acronym again? I already forgot it. The NAPD? LMAO? Anyway, our dictator friend is getting comfy into his new role. The defenders, the CHA, are moving into position to defend their capital, which means we need to buy them more time. How do we do that? Well, we blow up some missile launchers. But not just those. There's also some anti-air vehicles. Although we're only moving through the map and destroying launching sites, I really like this level. I think it plays to the strengths of these larger maps, while still feeling more like classic SOCOM. You can play the entire thing sneaky, which I did not do. Why? Well, because I'm bad at games. But yeah, it is classic SOCOM, and that's always nice to see. There's even an underground section for some more variety. The SEALs yearn for the mines. With the launchers destroyed, the CHA are able to set up defensive positions and halt the assault on the capital. Good news for them, bad news for us, because the next level is the worst in the game. There's 3 positions we need to defend: north, center, and west. The enemy will send in troops and even tanks periodically. There's no other way to play this mission other than as a generic shooter. Run from one position, kill all the bad guys who run at you, run to the next, rinse and repeat. It's not difficult, it doesn't take like brain power, it's just really boring and a little long. I'm not a fan. It's super generic. I hate this level. General Mahmoud, our dictator friend, is holed up inside his palace. We infiltrate the compound, taking prisoners on the way, killing everyone on the way. He gets wind of our arrival, but the second in command has had enough.
هل فقدت عقلك؟ ليس أكثر منك يا سيدي. إن أرض المعركة مخدبة بدماء جنودنا، فالجنود يتساقطون هنا وهناك، وأنت تجلس هنا وتضحك. ثروت، كيف تجرؤ أن تتحدث معي بهذه الطريقة؟ هذا التمرد لن يدوم طويلا. أنا قائدك. ما هذا الصوت؟ تلك طائرة الهليكوبتر أيها الأحمق. هل تعتقد أنني سأسمح لهم بأسري؟ لقد خنتنا جميعا. أنت انتظر هنا للترحيب بالأمريكان. سنرى كيف سيكافئونك نظير خيانتك.
Mahmoud escapes, for now, but we still gotta clean up here. Something has happened, a bug maybe, and he won't surrender. Alright, we're gonna restart the checkpoint and let's try that again. I ragged on the checkpoint system earlier, but being a solution for game-breaking bugs isn't something I ever thought of. Just surrender, please! Third time's the charm. Finally, thank you. Mission complete.
HQ, we have Colonel Sarwat in custody.
As luck would have it, Mahmoud's helicopter was shot down nearby as he was escaping. In a level clearly inspired by the real-world Highway of Death, you and your team need to move down the road, engaging hostiles as they appear. Then the game hands us a Humvee with a rocket launcher, because this game really needed more action. It's fun, don't get me wrong, it's just a bit hollow. Also, a tank appears, and it's the dumbest part of the game. I don't know how you play this part without laughing. What has SOCOM become? The general and his troops have retreated to a nearby town. As we're assaulting it, a nearby truck full of enemy troops appear— never mind. In a hilarious, and what I have to assume was intentional, real-world callback to Saddam Hussein's real capture, your team finds Mahmoud hiding in a hole in the ground. It looks pretty comfy. The dates match up, as SOCOM 3 was released 2 years after Saddam's capture by American forces, although the game's general claims to have 1 million USD, while Saddam apparently had about 750,000. With the Northern African region complete, we get a nice little message about how we've advanced the cause of freedom in the region. I'm sure after our presence, everyone here lived happily ever after. Now it's time to head to South Asia. An Australian ship has been hijacked by a gang calling itself the Fist and Fire, which, first off, badass name. Sounds like a gang from an 80s movie. Second, the ship was carrying missiles, which is no bueno, so we're moving in to try and locate the ship and, more importantly, the cargo. They really nailed the atmosphere here. It's miserable to be in, but in a good way. It just feels so humid and sticky. This level's kind of fun because I like to pretend I'm in Apocalypse Now. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. The final 5 missions brings us to Poland. A terror group calling itself the New Slavic Order is building WMDs. Okay, before you doubt me, they're like for real this time. Like for really real. Like I'm pretty sure they're doing the thing. I think. I don't know, a guy told me that, and I didn't verify, so we'll find out. The first level of these batch of missions is mandatory stealth. Sneak in, plant some bugs, then sneak out. I always prefer stealth to be optional, but for the plot, I get why they had to do it this way and make it mandatory. I'll explain more in a bit. Also, just because it's stealth doesn't mean you can't not kill, or you can kill. You can. Yeah, double negatives confuse me. You know what I mean. But no time for that, because the First Lady of Poland has just been kidnapped. Oh no, my princess is in another castle. She's being grabbed during a ship christening. I didn't know there were born-again ships, but that's besides the point. We arrive on scene to stop it. Wait, how did we get here so fast? Like literally 10 minutes once it started kicking off. Anyway, this level is full-on Hollywood movie. There's a boat chase through the canals of Poland, and then the streets. The pacing of the game is great, but it's just like one mission will be quiet and slow, and then the next is full-on action. It's kind of impressive, it's just not SOCOM. So it is great for what it is, but if you were expecting classic SOCOM, this ain't it. I don't want to be misconstrued or misunderstood. I'm not saying I hate the game, it's just not what I was expecting. So, as a generic action game, it's fun. So, yeah, I don't mean to be too dour on it.
Polish military units have secured the area, and the First Lady is safe. Mission complete.
In a cool twist, we actually return to the stealth level, but this time it's daytime and it's not stealth. It's a full-on assault. It's ridiculous, it's dumb, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it. Again, not really SOCOM, but it is a great time. Final 2 missions, and this is it. First, another stealth run to confirm our targets. Second mission, an assault to take them out. Doesn't make much sense to me. Like, why not just kill the targets when we confirmed they were there? To pad out the game? I'm nitpicking, I admit. Anyway, the streets are flooded, and I dig both these levels. They take place on the same map, but I'm okay with that. The levels are so short, it's not a bad thing to spend a bit more time in them. Our objectives are to clear out the brewery where they were brewing the WMD gases, and neutralize the 2 heads of the group. One's a doctor, and one's a guy with a name without any vowels. Pro tip, there's a boat here that Command will recommend you use.
I suggest using the boat to do a few loops around the target. Use the machine gun to soften up the area.
Do not use the boat. Don't do it, it's a death trap. There are dudes with RPGs all around. I've tried like 7 times, died each time. No matter which direction I tried, you will get one-shotted. Is that past 10? You'll die. So just go on foot. Kill the 2 baddies, then defend the brewery as waves attack, and that's not only mission complete, but it's game complete.
This is Mark Tepper for GNS. Wrocław became the stage for a pitched battle between Polish military forces and the NSO, the terrorist organization responsible for the Gdansk incident. Polish forces prevailed, according to a statement released by Poland's General Inspector of Armed Forces, and all members of the NSO have now been captured or killed. The General Inspector and the U.S. State Department both deny reports that U.S. forces were involved in the battle. You have been listening to Global News Service, covering the world.
Again, I don't hate this game. I had a fun time. It's not SOCOM, but it's a fun time. Thanks for hanging out. Consider subscribing if you made it this far. Love ya. SOCOM Combined Assault is the final SOCOM game to be released on the PS2, and it's arguably the worst. I've identified 6 major reasons. 3 things the game does terribly, and 3 it does pretty well. I streamed the entire playthrough along with 2 YouTube friends, so that's me in the corner. Hi, hello. Let's take a look back on SOCOM Combined Assault. Like an Alabama family, this game shares too much DNA with its sibling. It feels the same as SOCOM 3, largely looks the same, and of course plays the same. There was a huge departure from SOCOM 2 into 3, but SOCOM 3 and Combined Assault are very similar, though there have been massive changes, which brings me to the first big thing I love about this game, and that's the introduction of a full co-op campaign. You can play the entire campaign with up to 3 friends. Funny enough, we did this with me and my friend PS2 or Die on an emulator, and our pal Johnny playing on a real PS2. Which is crazy! It's 2025 and we're mixing emulators and real consoles just to play this old game online. And it actually worked, basically flawlessly. Johnny's FPS wasn't all that great on a real PS2, but he was also running widescreen as well, which the game supports. What FPS you think you're getting, Johnny? 15?
It might be, maybe not even.
What makes this even more impressive is that I'm playing from Japan, PS2 or Die's in America, and Johnny's in the UK, literally across the world as far as we can be, and it ran pretty much fine. SOCOM's co-op functionality is still impressive, even all these years later, so if it worked for us, it can work for you too. And it was pretty easy to set up. But just because a game has a co-op campaign mode doesn't mean it's got a good campaign. Which brings us to the first big issue I have with the game. Its poor mission variety / objectives. This one's a bit of a twofer. The objectives per mission, the stuff you actually do, didn't stagnate from the first game. It's gotten worse. The objectives are so simple and so brain dead that you'll never remember a mission because of its objectives. There's so many memorable missions from the first 2 games, and even the third had a couple. The nighttime prisoner rescue where you assault a base, and if you're spotted, an enemy helicopter comes after you, or that time you're freeing POWs from mercenaries deep in a jungle camp, and of course, the first level in SOCOM when you infiltrate the tanker. These are all missions I remember, and I remember having a great time in. Ask me to name a SOCOM combined assault level? Like a man leaving a vasectomy clinic, I'm shooting blanks.
Well, so I've got one hostage here.
Oh, that is an enemy.
And
Oh, there's multiple enemies. As mid as SOCOM 3 was, I remember the final 2 levels. It wasn't my favorite game, but it was distinct and something different. A far cry from go to place, kill all the enemies here, or hit X on bomb to defuse it. Now, it's not all bad, because one thing I do like is the scale. There's a bit more of everything. There's more weapons, attachments, vehicles, and of course, larger levels. Like a veteran porn star, these maps are blown out. It's good then that vehicles are so abundant. I mentioned in my SOCOM 3 video that it feels more like Battlefield than it does SOCOM, and that's doubly true here. SOCOM 3 and Combined Assault both bumped the total player count per match in the online multiplayer to 32, as opposed to 1 and 2's 16 players. I'm not going to talk a whole bunch about the multiplayer, but it gives some context here, and I think it helps us understand what kind of game this is. Anyway, SOCOM Combined Assault really feels like Sony's answer for declining SOCOM sales. It was trying to be and eat Battlefield's lunch, and bring some of that franchise and its popularity to the PlayStation, which is actually a great idea. In a weird way, I'm sad it didn't work out. It's ironic then that the PS2 would receive a Battlefield 2 port in the form of Modern Combat. Unfortunately, more doesn't mean better, and I think in this case, it of course loses a lot of what made SOCOM special in the first 2 games. Was it the right call financially? Probably. Am I still sad about it? Yeah. Though it's worth noting, Combined Assault had a weird online system setup. Combined Assault players could play with SOCOM 3 players. It was kind of a crossplay before crossplay was a thing, so you can't say Zipper and Sony didn't try. Looking back on the series, it's insane to me how great of a package the online support was for the SOCOM series, and yet never taking off past 2's peak popularity. If I were Sony, I'd find it maddening. But sometimes you can do everything right and still fail. Which brings us to negative number 2, a lack of a story. That's a bit of a lie, as the game does have a story, but functionally, it may as well not. It used to be that a cutscene would play before and usually after every mission. Well, that's gone. Now it's maybe 1/3 of the time, and even then, it's pretty generic. It'll be some bad guys training at a camp while HQ tells you to kill them all. Sorry, neutralize them all.
Look at that. We did that, guys.
Gone are the days of named characters scheming and plotting, replaced with generic get the baddies motivations. They just feel hollow, and every enemy faction you fight is basically identical to one another. It's not like East Europeans are hyper-aggressive with AKs, and South American terror cells are more cautious and tactical, with smuggled Uzis or something. I mean, just thinking about it, there's so many awesome ways you could differentiate the factions. Maybe one faction is super aggressive and charges your positions while belting grenades at you, while another loves to hang back and set up Vietnam-style traps or claymores you have to navigate. But nope, they're all the same, and you'll barely register any difference. And those cutscenes I mentioned, well, if you're playing co-op, they won't appear at all. You only get them if you play by yourself, which I already did enough of as a teenager. There's a helicopter left.
Yeah.
Is it, okay. Is it bad?
Yep.
You want to shoot at it, or you want to just...
Oh, it arced.
The plot and everything revolving around it is the worst it's ever been in a SOCOM game. I understand that the multiplayer was the focus, and this is more of a map pack than anything, but come on. I get that it doesn't improve on a lot of things from the prior games, that's fine, but it's also missing a lot of features from those games. It's regressing, if anything. One way it hasn't regressed is the weapon variety. This is sorta related to my earlier point, but it's worth bringing up just how many options you have available to you. Yeah, you can use the broken M16 with a laser and red dot, which is fine, it's perfectly accurate, but where's the fun in that? Try a machine gun, try an SMG, try a sniper, and all of this is exemplified when playing with friends and working as a team. One mission, a guy can be a sniper providing overwatch, while the other players are rushing in with assault rifles. And because vehicles are a much more obvious threat this time around, you really need at least one guy bringing some anti-armor with him. You'll rarely know what kind of threats you'll face in a mission, and some of the highlights the game did have was being ambushed by a tank or helicopter. Those moments were some of the most fun I had in the game, even if it meant a complete squad wipe. Oh, there's a tank, run. It's aiming at us.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Run
getting in and getting out.
This tank is like trying to run me over. I'm using this rock as a cover. Alright, hang on.
Badger, get your fucking ass over here, you shit!
It feels like such a weird push and pull, because the game adds some stuff, but takes away other stuff. One of the more evident features that have been removed, which doesn't seem consequential, but I think it definitely is the lack of blood and gore. The shooting never felt as good as it did even in 3, and I think part of that can be tied to the lack of blood. The game just has this Marvel movie feel to it, where, yeah, people are fighting and there's some violence, but there's no weight to the violence. They may as well be taking naps for all we know. I remember playing SOCOM 1 and shooting a guy in the head, the blood spraying out, his limp body collapsing on the ground. Sounds a bit sick to say out loud, but damn was it fun to do. People rarely seem to talk about it, but gore plays a huge, vital role in gameplay. You need to feel like your shots are powerful. These are guns you're supposed to be wielding, not toys. This isn't laser tag. You're taking someone's life. Convey that to the player. It doesn't need to be shell shock nom, but give it some weight. I don't want to hear some guy screaming his lungs out because he got shot in the belly, like in Reservoir Dogs, but give it something more than just a, ooh, you hit me, I'm dead, blah.
I was about to, there's like a captain looking character around the corner here. He's just
you guys can stay in here.
Oh, Johnny, get the fuck out.
So why'd they remove the blood? Well, this game has a teen rating, while every other SOCOM got a mature M rating. Why? Because teen-rated games sell better. Does it ruin the game? No, of course not, but it's just another notch in the belt of soullessness. What? What does that even mean? Did I enjoy Combined Assault? I did, but then again, I was playing with friends. So do I recommend Combined Assault? If you have friends to play with you, yeah, sure. If not, nah, skip it. You're not missing anything unless you're looking for an average, fairly forgettable shooter experience. With that said, the voice commands still work, so there's that. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you've made it this far. The PSP SOCOM games I've never played are coming up in the future. Love ya, bye.